Welcome to part 3 of this series. In this session, we'll focus on the reading section of the International English exam and then bring everything together with a recap and a closing thought statement. Reading is one of the most intimidating sections for students. The passages are long, the language can be dense, the vocabulary is sometimes unfamiliar, and the clock is always ticking. But once you understand how to approach it strategically, reading stops becoming a race and starts becoming a structured process. The first key principle in this is you are not expected to read and understand every single word. These exams don't test how long you can stare at a text. They test whether you can find and process information efficiently. There are 3 essential skills you need to master for reading success: skimming, scanning, and detailed reading. Let's look at each one clearly. The first skill is skimming. Skimming means reading quickly to get to the main idea of a passage. You're not reading for detail, you're reading for structure. Imagine flipping through a newspaper, looking at the headlines, first sentences, and then keywords to understand the overall topic. In the exam, skim the passage before you even look at the questions. Focus on the first line of each paragraph and words that stand out. This gives you a mental map of the text. When you get to the questions, you already have a sense of where to find information. The second is scanning. Scanning is like using your eyes as a search engine. You don't read everything. You look for specific information: names, numbers, dates, keywords. For example, if the place asks, when did the event take place? You don't reread the whole passage. You scan for numbers or time expressions. Your eyes move quickly until they land on something that matches. The third skill is detailed reading. And this only comes into play once you found the relevant part of the text. This is when you slow down and pay close attention to wording to make sure that you understand exactly what's being said. This is especially important for tricky, true, false, not given questions, or some of those questions with qualifiers like most, some, or only. A single word can change the correct answer. Here's a fun perspective to keep Here's a fun fact to keep things in perspective. In the IELTS reading section, you have 40 questions in 60 minutes. This gives you just 90 seconds per question on average. That's actually less time it takes to make a cup of instant noodles, or less time it takes to warm your plate of plov in the microwave. That's why strategy matters. If you try to read everything word for word, you'll run out of time. But if you skim first, scan smartly, and only read in detail when necessary, you'll manage your time much, much better. Let's try a quick example. Imagine this short text. Maria visited Spain in June. She returned home in August. If the question is, when did Maria return? You don't need to read everything carefully. You can scan for dates. Your eyes find August and you have your answer in seconds. This is the power of scanning. Finally, let's talk about time management. One of the biggest mistakes students make is spending too long on one difficult question. If something is taking too long, skip it and come back later. It's better to collect the easy points first and return to the tough ones and get stuck than to run out of time. Here's another statement that can help. It is often said by professionals is never leave blanks because even a guess has a chance of earning you a point, but a blank guarantees zero. By combining skimming for structure, scanning for speed, detailed reading for accuracy, and smart time management, you can control and approach this reading with confidence and control. All right, before we finish, let's take a moment to recap everything we covered over the course. In part one, we began by looking at the big picture. We talked why international English exams are so important, how they act like passports to universities, jobs, and new countries. We also looked at the most common exams, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, Duolingo, and Cambridge. We discussed the differences between academic, professional, and general exams and how to choose the right one based on your goals, preferences, and strengths. In part two, we moved on to our listening masterclass. We focused on 4 key strategies: predicting answers before the audio starts, listening for key ideas instead of every word, recognizing paraphrasing, and watching out for traps like self-correction. We also discussed practical ways to practice, listening to different accents, stepping away from subtitles, replaying tricky parts intentionally, and building fast note-taking habits. And now in part three, we've looked at reading strategies. We've explored skimming, scanning, detailed reading, and we saw why managing your time wisely is critical for success. Together, these 3 parts give you a structured approach to be, or rather to prepare for international English exams. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you can build skills step by step. As we wrap up in this series, I want to bring to us the little fact that I shared in the very beginning. Remember how I said that more than 3 million people take IELTS each year? The same number of people as the entire populations of Jamaica, Albania, or Mongolia. When you sit your exams, you're joining a global community of learners, all proving their skills and opening doors. What separates those who take the test to those who excel isn't luck. It's strategy, preparation, and mindset. It's making the decision to start early, to practice regularly, and to focus on the core skills that make the biggest difference. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, choose one listening habit and one reading strategy from these sessions and commit to practicing them every single day for the next week. It doesn't have to be complicated, just 5 focused minutes of listening to a new accent or 5 minutes of scanning a short article for keywords. Small, consistent actions lead to real progress. Before we close, I want to sincerely thank everyone for their time, your attention, your focus. Presenting online can feel like talking into a void, but knowing that you're here, listening, learning, and applying these ideas really means a lot. Once again, my name is Ranjan Dooley from school number 1 in Zarafshan, particularly Zarafshan city of the Navoiy region. I wish you all the best in your studies and in your upcoming exams. Remember, this isn't about passing a test. It's about unlocking opportunities, broadening your world, and proving to yourself what you're capable of. Thank you and take care.